in order for descendants to grow, okay, in order for them to be as much as the dust on the earth, in order for a lineage to spread out that far, it can't be done without God's hand. I'm gonna just be completely honest. It can't be done without God watching. All right. And the reason why I say this, you look at this, and for those of you who know anything about business, or for those of you who watch, if you look at businesses, all right, look at McDonald's. It is impossible for McDonald's to have grown to where it is now, all right, which they're not just all over this country, they're all over the entire world, without having done something right. Yes, we can all say, oh, McDonald's is horrible. I don't eat McDonald's. I don't put that into my body, and yada, yada, yada. At some point, everybody has gone to McDonald's for their dollar sodas. All right, let's just be completely honest. At some point, when you've been so broke, you've gone to McDonald's, and because you didn't have enough money, you were able to at least buy off the dollar menu. All right, or at least now off of the $2-3 menu. At some point, you didn't have enough and you were able to go there, all right? Because they've established a product that, while it may not be the best, it is still edible. It is still able for you to at least get something out of it. And they've been able to continue on because somebody has watched over it. Somebody has decided things for it. Somebody has kept at it and kept looking at it and continued to grow it to where it is now. Let's be completely honest. McDonald's isn't going anywhere anytime soon. There are probably more McDonald's in your area than there are Walmarts. There are probably more McDonald's in your area than there are Burger Kings. There are probably more McDonald's in your area than there is any other fast food chain. Unless you live in DC and then you find more carryouts, but that's a whole nother story and that's a whole nother thing. But in order for something to be that blessed to where your descendancy or whatever you have will grow to that point, something's watching over it. God's watching over it, and he's got to watch over it enough so that way people won't get lost along the way, so that way there's not enough death to where it looks like they're going extinct or whatever the case may be. But God's watching it, and it points out to the point of how awesome God is, because it shows his omnipresence, which means it shows that he can be everywhere at once. Because if you think about this, how spread apart bloodlines are. So-and-so marries so-and-so marries so-and-so marries so-and-so, and so on and so forth. And now you have 16 generations of family, which each, let's say if me and my wife, we have 3 kids, our kids have 3 kids, and their kids have 3 kids. All right, you start off at me and my wife, then there's 3, then there's 9, then there's what's 3 times 3, 9 times 3, then there's 27, and so on and so forth. All right. Too much math for my brain to calculate at the moment. But in order for that to happen, there has to be life. And in order for there to be life, there has to be God. Mind you, to continue and add on to this, in Proverbs 15, 1-4, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of the fool pours forth foolishness. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good, and the wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perseverance in it breaks the spirit. Yes, I use the whole passage, and that's only because I don't like things being out of context, okay? But you think about this. The Lord is in every place, and he's keeping watch over good and evil. He has to keep watch to make sure that your wrath doesn't go overboard. He keeps watch and is watching you over the good and the bad that you do. So when your harsh words stir up anger, he's also there, and he's also there when your words soften and de-escalate situations. He's there when you're wise. He's there when you're foolish. He's there when you're speaking life. He's there when you're persevering or when you're giving up, but he's always there. And I find it interesting that the majority of this is about this passage in specific is about speech, because your words can destroy and they can bring life. And what you're doing is it can seem crazy. What you're saying can seem crazy, but God doesn't just watch over us because of the promises that are over us, but to make sure that you're on the right path. For instance, in the same way you look at Eli and Hannah, Eli was looking at this woman thinking that she was drunk and that she was mad, when the entire time what she was doing was she's going, God, give me a son so that I can give him to you. Allow me to bear a child, open my womb so that I can put them at your feet, at your altar as a sacrifice unto you, so that he may serve you and he may do what you desire with him. Yes, her mouth was moving, but it wasn't saying anything, but her heart was speaking louder. And what was in her heart, even though there was no sound, was coming out of her mouth, proving more so and connecting to that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. But yet the perception was that this woman was drunk, that this woman was nuts, that Hannah was crazy, that she didn't know what was going on. And it makes me think of this fact that even you or even anyone can confuse a relationship with God or what God is trying to do as craziness. People will view what you were doing. People will view your prayers sometimes. People will view your life. People will view your prayer life. People will view your relationship with God as crazy. Do you understand how hard it is to understand the spiritual aspect of a relationship with God? How difficult it is to understand the spiritual aspect of Christianity in general, of the Bible in general? Think about how many times the Bible has been tried to be destroyed. There have been times, and there are videos, you can watch them all over YouTube, where people have literally put piles and piles and piles and piles of the Bible. I'm talking about piles as tall as 6 feet, 7 feet, 10 feet tall, and burned them. And yet you still find the Bible everywhere. You still can go back to those same countries where that has happened and find a version of the Bible for it to be read, because people look at this thing as dangerous. People look at it as crazy. And mind you, I want you to really think about this. No one has attacked Christianity like any other religion. It's been true across humanity's existence and the timeline of humanity that every time that someone is trying to do something before God, that they're looked at crazy. Hannah was looked at crazy while she was promising to God to give her son to him. Noah was, I'm sure, looked crazily while he was building the ark when there was no rain, there was no water, there was nothing in sight that would say that he needed a boat that big to fit every single animal in. Moses was looked at like he was nuts by every turn by the Israelites, from the beginning of when he was saying that the Lord sent me to set you free, to when they were in the desert and going, how are we going to eat? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And this, that, and the third. Where are you taking us? It seems like we've been going in the desert for like so long when it's right over there. Why can't we make it over there? What are you doing? Why aren't you guiding us that way? Why can't we go back to Egypt? They couldn't even understand that their enslavement while they were in Egypt was to protect them. They were looking at God as if God had abandoned them when the whole time God was taking care of them. Gideon, if you go to the book of Judges, Gideon was probably looked at as he was nuts. He went from 32,000 soldiers, 32,000 troops to 300 men, and they won. Jesus was probably looked at like he was nuts. They claimed him to be king of the Jews, but they were probably looking at him like he was crazy, going, my death will be your forgiveness. I would even think about it. If I was in his position, I'm sitting here, why would I sacrifice myself for people who want nothing to do with me? Not everyone's going to understand. Especially those who are in darkness, especially those who live in darkness, especially those who are still coming to the light. I want to point this out. If you go to if you go to John chapter 1, verses 3 through 5, all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Darkness couldn't comprehend what the light was doing. Darkness couldn't comprehend what God was doing when he was separating the heavens and bringing a light for the day and a light for the night. So not everybody understands the walk that God is taking you through. Not everybody understands the things that you're going through, whether you're going through ministry, whether you're just doing life, whether you're just trying to be a good dad to your children, whether you're just trying to be a male sometimes in this world now, whether you're just trying to be a parent. People can't understand why people make their decisions. But half the time, if we're going to be completely honest, especially when you have a relationship with God, God is in charge of that, and people don't have to understand. I tell this to my oldest son all the time. We're talking about how certain things happen, and he's like, that doesn't make any kind of sense. And I go, it doesn't have to make sense for it to be right.